which is the structure of the universal space, the granular structure? That's a big question of quantum physics now for a long time. And I was a part of the movement in physics. We developed a superfluid quantum space model. But today I believe that this word quantum, we should leave out superfluid space. Max Planck constants are one of the biggest achievements of intellectual inquiry in physics. But regarding the structure of the space, I believe that Planck constants are only pointing to something. Because we have a Planck mass and we have a Planck volume. Now, if you divide Planck mass with the Planck volume, you will get a Planck density. But what I did years ago, I said, okay, this is a Planck density. But if we put on the upper part c squared, we will get a Planck energy density. And our group today develops this idea that the universal space is a superfluid and that in the intergalactic space between the galaxies, the energy density of this superfluid has a Planck value. And in the center, let's say, of galaxies, the energy density is much lower. The energy density of superfluid space in the center of the Earth is lower exactly for the mass of the Earth. This is this equation which formulates the extension of the energy of the mass energy equivalence principle on the superfluid space. This is this formula here, you see? You can check in my book. This formula is also valid for a relativistic phenomena. And now inside of my research group, we have now a discussion because some members think that the granular structure of superfluid space is something that has physical reality, that this superfluid space is made out of some units. But I think this is not the case. I think this is not the case. I think that this superfluid space, which in the old terms was named ether, that this superfluid space has no consistent elements. It's a fluid. I know this is difficult to imagine because we are used that everything has some smaller parts. But I think that with the superfluid space, this is not the case. And I am in favor of Vasilis Bitnev idea that this superfluid space, which is also called physical space or physical vacuum, is a type of energy that generates elementary particles in the sense that every elementary particle is a vortex of this superfluid space, is a vortex of ether. So in this perspective, the proton has no constituent particles. Proton is not made of particles. Proton is a vortex of superfluid space. Also, electron is a vortex of superfluid space. And photon is a wave of this superfluid space, which is four-dimensional. Superfluid space has four dimensions. Excitation of the superfluid space along x1, x2, x3 is electric field. And excitation along x2, x3, x4 is magnetic field. And I calculated myself that even in the biggest black hole, the energy density of superfluid space is much lower than in the intergalactic space. But still, if we use these values for calculating gravitational constant, the gravitational constant remains the same. So I do not believe that variable energy density of superfluid space can influence the value of gravitational constant. We know today that the gravitational constant can be expressed by the Planck energy density. So this is where we have a different opinion in my research group, in our research group. And this is good. Having different opinions is very good. Because if in the group of researchers there is only one opinion, then there is a possibility that this opinion is wrong. But when we have two opinions, then there is possibility that one is right and the other is wrong. So we are on the good way. I'm not 100% convinced that I know that superfluid space has no elementary particles. There are no some particles which are building superfluid space. It is a kind of mystery. And I think that this mystery will remain actual for many years. We published with my research colleague an article years ago that actually in this superfluid space, we have virtual photons. And when we hit superfluid space, when we give superfluid space energy, these photons become real. Because the idea today that when you heat up the iron, that the electrons are jumping on the other orbits and releasing a photon, you can heat the piece of iron for 10,000 years and photons, they will always come out, which means that the photons exist in the superfluid space, in my view, as a potential wave. And when the superfluid space get energy input, these potential waves become actual wave that we can see it. There are many things which are not understood yet and which will not be understood for many, many years ahead. This is the beauty of physics. Because if we would know everything, then this spirit of searching would come to the end. And this spirit in physics of searching new models which are more adequate description of physical reality as the existent one. This is the main intellectual juice of physics. And in this intellectual work, the observer who is aware of how mind creates models of reality, this observer, I think, is a crucial part of resurrection of physics. Because physics today is somehow lost in this mental mud of a century theoretical research, and that 95% of articles in theoretical physics are just a mental crap. Because with the Albert Einstein, something new, some new way of doing physics came into power, namely that you can invent new ideas out of the blue. Einstein's idea that time is a fourth dimension of space, this mathematical formalism, has nothing to do with real physical world. So if I go into the presence, into the pure observer, and I see this idea that space has a granular structure, the answer is no, this idea is wrong. Because consciousness has intrinsic power to see if something is right or wrong without intellectual understanding. Because ontologically, consciousness is above the mind. And this is something that should be taken into consideration. That the future physics, in the creation of the future physics, the consciousness, the awakened observer must have the most important role, must prevail the mind, because mind without consciousness is just dreaming whatsoever. Thank you for your attention.